There is a big, lovely bush in the backyard at the parsonage. It's a Russian sage. I planted it in the backyard at the parsonage about, 4 summers ago. If you're not familiar with the Russian sage, it is a fast-growing shrub, and it produces a bright purple flower, and its flowers and its leaves smell so good. They smell healthy and clean. I don't really know any other way to explain it. My daughter said to me one day, "When I smell this plant, I feel like I will never be ill again." And it's kind of like that. It has many healing properties within it, so it even smells healthy. Bees are very partial to a Russian sage. So I like to pull a lawn chair up beside my sage so that I can smell its fragrance and watch the bees duck their little heads into the little flowers. There's actually a picture of this bush I'm talking about on the cover of your bulletin, but truthfully, it's just not looking too good in the photo. The branches of this shrub don't usually hang down on the ground like this. They usually stand up very straight. So all summer long, this shrub has been covered with fragrant purple blooms. It's been surrounded by little buzzing bees, and it has looked so dignified and strong. And then we got 3.5 inches of rain, which was a great thing. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining, but this is when that picture was made. I walked outside Saturday afternoon on August the 20th, and I found my friend, the Russian sage, weighed down and stooped over. The image was so striking to me that I took a few pictures. It wasn't that this beautiful plant was dying. It wasn't weighed down with disease or destruction. She was weighed down by life, by too much life, too many flowers, too many bees, too much rain all at once. What she carried in the process of being alive, the weight of her own existence, got so heavy that the branches began to sag and droop under the burden of it. It happens, doesn't it? We occasionally get weighed down by life. There is a sign posted at one of the churches down the street. Maybe you have noticed it. It says, "Stop focusing on how stressed you are and remember how blessed you are." Have you seen that? Great advice. I'm totally for that. I am an idealist, which means that I always lean towards hope. I like to accentuate the positive, as that old song says. However, just like with everything else, there has to be a balance in our outlook. We need to be real about life. And so it becomes immature for us to pretend that everything is always hunky-dory. It's unhealthy, in fact, for us to pretend that we are untouched by suffering, by hardship. We all face difficult situations, and they affect our mood and they affect our emotions. And it's okay to acknowledge that our mood and our emotions have been affected. It's part of the human condition. Truth is, sometimes life gets heady. Sometimes it weighs us down. I've been there lately, man. I've been weighed down by life. And I don't know, maybe people don't want to hear their pastor admit that. But you know, I'm not above the fray. And I would never want to leave the impression that I think I am. And besides all that, if I'm not affected by what's going on around me, if I don't fully engage in the life that I am living, then how much can I really offer to you as your pastor, right?
Amen.
So, here I am. And I am weighed down like the Russian sage in my backyard at the parsonage. And I'm not weighed down by death, and I'm not weighed down by disease. I am just weighed down by life. Quite frankly, I've had a little too much of it lately. And I have been met by the weight of it. And maybe you have been met by the weight of life. Maybe you are this morning feeling weighed down. Maybe you can feel the pressure of that good rain and those fragrant blossoms and all those bees swarming around you. I mean to say, maybe you are experiencing the weight of life, stress, the uncertainty about your future, maybe, or just, plain old weariness from the day-to-day drudgery. I like to sit in meditation and talk to Jesus sometimes. Can I tell you about this? Can I tell you about this without you thinking your pastor's a little bit nuts? So I like to sit in meditation and talk to Jesus sometimes, and in that meditation, I meet Jesus in a specific place that he has shown to me. I meet him in my mind's eye on a hill that is completely surrounded by water. And we sit together under the shade of a hawthorn tree, and we talk to each other as a disciple and a teacher. So recently I found myself in this familiar spot, this hill surrounded by water, lush green grass everywhere, this beautiful tree, so strong and healthy. And Jesus was waiting for me there when I arrived. He was sitting cross-legged under the tree with his eyes closed. He was already in deep meditation. I sat down facing him, which is how we often sit when we are together. But as soon as I lowered my body to the ground and crossed my legs in front of me, the scene instantly changed. The tree under which Jesus and I always sit, it vanished before my eyes. And we were left under this bright sunlight. The grass was suddenly gone, and we were surrounded by hot, red sand, wrinkled by the wind. Jesus and I were in a barren desert, and the weight of it, the tension of it, the stress of it was inescapable for me. I immediately began to panic because, how are we going to survive out here in this place? So I looked to Jesus for help, but he never looked up. He never opened his eyes. He never spoke to me. He just continued to sit in this peaceful contemplation. So I spoke to him because I wanted to get his attention, and I said, "Hey, man, I don't know if you've noticed, but we're in the desert, and if we don't have some water, we are going to die. So get up from your place and let's go together and look for an oasis." I had no sooner voiced my concern than I saw what I was looking for out in the distance. Rising up just beyond us was this vibrant green patch of land covered with palm trees and very thick grass. Waterfall flowed down the mountain into a deep lake, and it nourished the ground all around it. So I'm ready, to take off towards this little haven. But as soon as I begin to walk, I look again and I notice that I am surrounded by a living sanctuary. It was just the opposite of what you might expect. Instead of finding an oasis in the middle of the desert, I was in a desert at the center of an oasis. And although Jesus remained in this meditative state, although he never opened his eyes, although he never spoke a word to me, I began to understand what he was showing me. My desert experiences are surrounded by love, even in a dry and barren land. When I am, as I feel like I'm doing right now, scraping the very bottom of the barrel, and all I'm finding here are the bitter dregs of just weariness. Still, even still, I am supported on every side by this nourishing oasis. When life gets heavy, God's presence helps me to shoulder that weight if I turn to God. So even here in this desert, there is joy and there is peace, which is why Jesus in me and Jesus with me can still meditate in this harsh, barren land. I have put water in the desert and streams in the wilderness to give life to my people. I agree with David that the words of Isaiah chapter 40 that he read for us a few moments ago are very comforting words. They are a favorite of many people. And they are words that remind us of God's renewing strength, which is poured out for us when we struggle under the weight of life. Do you not know? Have you not heard? God gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired, and the young will stumble and fall, but those who wait in hope on the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings of eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not grow faint. You see, these are words of an idealist who has been awakened to the difficulties of life. They're written by somebody who has a good, balanced perspective. And they say to us that even when we are overtaxed, when we are overwhelmed, when life is too heavy, we can hope, and we should hope, that there is a holy presence to uphold us. The Apostle Paul said it this way, I will boast all the more gladly of my weakness, so the power of Christ may dwell in me. For when I am weak, then I am strong. For when I am weak, then I am strong. You know, that is a spiritual truth that we as an American culture just cannot take hold of. We have staked our claim in the world based on our strength, our military power, our political superiority. And even though we claim to be a Christian nation, we have not succumbed to this Christian attitude. We haven't succumbed to our weakness, even though it's our weakness that testifies to God's grace sustaining us under the burden of our own existence. Paul desired to teach us about the sufficiency of God's grace. He wanted every follower of Jesus to know that our weakness isn't a disadvantage, it is indeed an asset. Because when we feel weak, when we feel that we cannot go on, when the weight of life becomes too heavy to uphold, when we find ourselves, out in the desert, desperately searching for water. It is then, right? It's then that we turn to God with our whole heart. And as we turn to God in our weakness, God fills us with the divine strength of holy humility. Sounds kind of strange, right? Strength and humility. But this is another one of those paradoxes of God's kingdom that we can embrace. Our reliance on God empowers us with a humility that enables us to bear up under the weight of life, because our humility increases our dependence on this God who empowers us. It's a cyclic gift. It's true. Life can be awfully weighty. The flowers and the fragrance and the bees and the rain. Just the essence of existence itself can cause us to feel such a heavy burden that it bends our branches down to the ground. But when we claim our frailty, we are strengthened by the source of grace. When we admit that we are stressed out in the desert, then love rises up to support us. In my weakness, I am strong. In your weakness, you are strong. In our corporate weakness, we are strong. Through Holy God, our only Savior. Amen and amen.